Once upon a time, in a quiet town named Springville, there was a young boy named Sam who had a most unusual pet. Unlike most kids who had dogs, cats, or even hamsters, Sam had a stegosaurus named Steggy. Steggy wasn't an ordinary stegosaurus. He was much smaller than the gigantic stegosaurs that roamed the earth millions of years ago. He was the size of a small car, which was just perfect because Sam's backyard was big enough for him to play around and frolic freely. Sam and Steggy had a wonderful bond. Steggy would patiently let Sam climb onto his back, and they'd embark on grand adventures around their backyard, pretending to be in dense jungles or on rocky mountains. They'd search for hidden treasures, saving the day from imaginary foes, and always return home in time for dinner. One day, as Sam was returning home from school, he noticed Steggy looked a little sad. His vibrant green eyes were dim, and his usually energetic tail was listless. Sam worried about his friend. Sitting down beside him, patting his thick, scaly skin. "What's the matter, Steggy?" Sam asked. But Steggy could only respond with a soft sigh. Over the next few days, Sam tried to cheer Steggy up. He read his favourite dinosaur books to him, even brought him the tastiest leaves from the forest, but nothing seemed to work. Remembering the stories about Steggy's ancestors from the books, Sam had an idea. He thought Steggy might be missing the company of other dinosaurs. But how was Sam going to find other dinosaurs in Springville? Determined to help his friend, Sam drew colourful pictures of different dinosaurs: Triceratops, Brachiosaurus, T-Rex, and many more, and placed them around the backyard. He made them as realistic as possible, hoping that Steggy would feel as if he was surrounded by his dinosaur brethren. The next morning, as the first rays of sun sprinkled golden dust across the yard, Sam and Steggy woke up to an amazing sight. The cardboard dinosaurs were glistening in the sunlight, and a gentle breeze made them move as if they were alive. Sam watched Steggy's reaction, holding his breath. Steggy looked around, his green eyes wide with wonder. He saw the cardboard dinosaurs scattered around the yard, bobbing and swaying in the wind. He let out a joyful hoot and started to interact with the cardboard figures. It was as if the life had been injected back into him. Steggy looked happier, and even his tail started swinging from side to side like a puppy. Sam couldn't help but laugh and cheer, relieved to see his friend back in high spirits. From that day onwards, the backyard became a small dinosaur land. Sam and Steggy continued their adventures, but now they weren't alone. They had a whole crowd of dinosaurs to share their escapades. And so, dear listener. Remember, sometimes all we need is a little bit of understanding and creativity to help our friends. And the magic of a good heart. Sweet dreams, little dreamer. May your dreams be as exciting and adventurous as Sam and Steggy's backyard. Once upon a time, in a small town named Meadowville, there lived a brave and imaginative little girl named Ava. Ava had curly red hair, a giggle that echoed through the house, and an adventurous spirit that no one could match. However, there was something unusual about Ava's bedroom. She believed a friendly monster lived under her bed. She called him Giggles because every night she could hear a soft chuckling sound that seemed to come from under her bed. No one else in the family could hear it, but Ava was sure it was real. One day, as the night was pulling its dark blanket over Meadowville, Ava gathered all of her courage and decided to finally meet Giggles. She took her favourite flashlight, the one covered in star stickers, and slowly bent down to peek under her bed. As the beam of light hit the darkness under the bed, Ava saw two large eyes looking back at her. "Hello, Giggles," she said in the softest voice. The eyes blinked, and she heard the familiar soft chuckle. Are you a monster?" Ava asked. "Well, that's a complicated question," came the reply, in a surprisingly gentle voice. "To some, I might seem like a monster, but really, I'm just different." Ava thought for a moment and then replied, "Well, if you're a monster, you're my monster, and I think being different is what makes you special, Giggles." Giggles, taken aback by Ava's understanding and kindness, came out from under the bed for the very first time. He was fluffy and round, with the most beautiful hues of blue and green on his fur. He had a wide grin on his face, revealing his name's source, a set of teeth that were comically large, causing his chuckling to be quite unique. From that night onwards, Ava and Giggles became the best of friends. Giggles would come out after Ava's parents said goodnight, and they would embark on fantastic imaginary adventures together. They would sail through the Milky Way, fight pirates in the seas of her carpet, or trek through the jungles of her wallpaper. As the sun would start to rise, Giggles would go back under the bed. "Giggles, wasn't ready for the world to see him yet, and Ava understood. She hugged him good night, or rather, good morning, and Giggles would disappear under the bed, with his soft chuckling echoing in the room. And so, dear listener, remember, not all monsters are scary, and being different makes us special. Just like Ava and Giggles, sometimes the best of friendships can be made from the most unexpected places. Good night, little dreamer. May your dreams be filled with giggles and friendship. Once upon a time, in a land where everything was made of sweets, there lived a little girl named Lily. Lily was a bright, curious child with twinkling eyes and a heart full of kindness. Lily lived in a house made of gingerbread, with candy cane fences and a beautiful garden full of chocolate flowers and jelly bean pebbles. Despite living in such a delightful place, Lily had a unique wish. While everyone else was content with sweets, Lily wished for something else. A single, fresh fruit. You see, in this land of sweets, fruits were rare and almost mythical. The stories of their delicious flavors, beautiful colors, and natural sweetness intrigued Lily, and she yearned to taste a fruit just once. One morning, as Lily was sitting in her sugar-glazed room, a little bird made of marshmallow fluttered in through the open window. The bird was carrying a tiny, shiny seed in its beak, which it dropped onto Lily's lap before flying away. Curious, Lily examined the seed. It was unlike anything she'd ever seen before. It was smooth and shiny. Remembering the tales her grandmother told her about how fruits came from seeds, Lily felt a surge of excitement. She thought this could be a fruit seed. So without wasting any time, Lily ran to her garden, made a small hole in the jelly bean pebbles, and gently nestled the seed into it. She watered the seed with mint-flavoured spring water every day, hoping for a miracle. Days turned into weeks, and Lily's patience began to waver. There was no sign of a sprout, but every night she'd whisper goodnight to the seed and tell it stories of the fruits she had heard from her grandmother. One morning, when the candy floss clouds were scattered across the sky, Lily saw a small green sprout peeking out from under the ground. Excitement washed over her, and she jumped with joy. The seed had finally sprouted. Time passed, and the plant grew, nurtured by Lily's love and care. One day, a small bud appeared, eventually blooming into a beautiful flower. Finally, to Lily's utmost joy, the flower turned into a small, green fruit. As the days went by, the fruit grew bigger and turned a vibrant orange. It was the most beautiful thing Lily had ever seen. When she believed it was ready, she gently plucked the fruit from the branch. Taking a deep breath, Lily took a bite. The flavour was nothing like she'd ever tasted. It was sweet, tangy, and incredibly refreshing. It was an orange, a fruit from the old tales, right there in her hands. Lily's dream had come true, all thanks to her patience, hope, and a little bit of magic. And so, dear listener, Lily got to taste her first fruit in a land of sweets. Her tale was one of determination, patience, and dreams coming true. After that day, she continued to grow more fruit trees, bringing a new flavour to the land of sweets. But that's a story for another night, dear listener. Good night, little dreamer. May your dreams be as sweet as Lily's candy garden, full of oranges. Once upon a time, in the heart of a beautiful garden, full of vibrant flowers and lush green trees, lived a tiny caterpillar named Callie. Callie was not an ordinary caterpillar. She was vibrant, green, with sunny yellow stripes and bright, curious eyes. Callie was well known amongst the garden's inhabitants for her dream. Unlike other caterpillars who were content crawling from leaf to leaf, Callie dreamt of flying. She would often look at the birds soaring in the sky with great admiration, wishing she could join them. One sunny day, as Callie was inching her way up a tall sunflower, she saw a butterfly flit past her. Her eyes widened in awe. The butterfly had wings so delicate yet radiant, shimmering under the sunlight, casting colours all around. Callie felt a pang of longing. "Oh, how I wish I could fly like you," she exclaimed, her tiny voice full of yearning. The butterfly fluttered around her, landing gently on the leaf next to her. "Don't lose hope, little one," said the butterfly. "Remember, I was a caterpillar, just like you, before I could fly. You will have your wings one day too." But Callie was too impatient and upset to take comfort in the butterfly's words. She felt that she would remain a caterpillar forever, crawling and not flying. Days turned into weeks, and Callie grew disheartened. She had almost given up on her dream. when one day she noticed something strange happening to her. She felt heavy and very tired, and a strong urge to wrap herself up in a cozy blanket completely washed over her. Listening to her instincts, Callie wove herself a snug cocoon. It was warm and comfortable, and she dozed off, hoping to wake up feeling better. Time passed, and the garden buzzed with curiosity. The little caterpillar, who had once dreamt of flying, was now hidden away in a cocoon. Everyone waited, wondering what would happen next. Finally, one bright morning, something magical happened. The cocoon began to stir, and slowly it started to crack. Slowly, out emerged Callie, but she was not the same caterpillar they remembered. Instead, she had transformed into a stunning butterfly with wings that shimmered in the sunlight, casting an array of beautiful colours, just like the butterfly she had admired. Callie, filled with joy and surprise, flapped her wings and took her first flight. She soared above her beloved garden, over the green trees and amidst the vibrant flowers. She had finally achieved her dream. From then on, Callie spent her days fluttering around the garden, a living proof that dreams could come true with time, patience, and a little bit of magic. And so, dear listener, it's time to weave your dreams into your own little cocoon of sleep. Close your eyes and let the world of dreams help you fly into the sky of adventure and imagination. Good night, little dreamer. May your dreams cast colours as beautiful as Callie's wings. Once upon a time, in the magical kingdom of Rainbow Valley, there lived a young unicorn named Sparkle. Sparkle was not like the other unicorns. Her coat was pure white, and she had a singular, twisted, golden horn on her head that shimmered brilliantly in the sunlight. But what made Sparkle truly special was not her appearance, but her kind heart and the magical powers that resided in her golden horn. It was said that whenever she touched her horn to the ground, beautiful flowers would bloom instantly. Despite her abilities, Sparkle felt out of place, for she did not know how to use her powers to help others. She longed to make a real difference, to bring joy and happiness to her fellow creatures in Rainbow Valley. One day, as Sparkle was wandering in the forest, she noticed a small bird with a broken wing. The little bird was unable to fly and looked very scared. Sparkle felt a pang in her heart. She wanted to help, but she didn't know how. Remembering the powers of her horn, Sparkle gently touched her golden horn to the bird's broken wing, hoping that it would do something, anything to help. To her surprise, a golden glow surrounded the bird, and its wing, it started to mend. When the glow faded, the bird flapped its wings and chirped happily. It was able to fly again. The bird soared into the sky, leaving behind a trail of beautiful, shimmering feathers. News of Sparkle's good deed spread quickly across Rainbow Valley, and she became known as a helper and a healer. Animals would come to her when they were hurt, and with a touch of her golden horn, she healed them and made them feel so much better. Sparkle had finally found her purpose and brought joy and happiness to Rainbow Valley, just as she had always wanted. She wasn't just a unicorn with a golden horn anymore. She was a friend, a helper, a healer, and a beloved member of her community. Sparkle the unicorn lived out her days, bringing magic, healing, and happiness to everyone around her. She proved that it's not our appearance that makes us special, but our actions and our kindness towards others. And so, dear listener, as you drift off to sleep, imagine a world as magical as Rainbow Valley, filled with unicorns, sparkling rivers, and rainbows. Good night, little dreamer. May your dreams be as beautiful and caring as Sparkle the unicorn. Once upon a time, in the centre of a bustling city, there was a tiny pet shop. Amongst all the exotic animals and colourful birds was a small goldfish named Goldie. Goldie was not an ordinary goldfish. She had shiny golden scales that sparkled under the shop lights, and big, bright eyes full of curiosity. Every day, Goldie watched as people came into the shop, marvelled at the other animals, and left with new pets. Goldie wished someone would take her home too. She longed to see the world beyond the pet shop and dreamt of exploring exciting new places. One beautiful morning, a little girl named Maya walked into the pet shop. Maya had sparkling eyes, just like Goldie, and the same adventurous spirit. As soon as Maya spotted Goldie, she knew they were meant to be friends, and they took her home. Maya placed Goldie in a large fish tank, filled with colourful pebbles and miniature castles. It was a whole new world for Goldie, and she explored her new surroundings with such joy. As days passed, Goldie and Maya became inseparable. Maya would spend hours watching Goldie swim around, her golden scales shimmering. She told Goldie stories about her day, her dreams, and sometimes made up fantastic tales about undersea adventures they would have together. Goldie loved listening to Maya. Her stories made Goldie's world richer and more exciting. She felt like she was on the adventures with Maya, meeting mermaids, outswimming sharks, and discovering hidden treasures. One day, Maya came home with a big smile on her face. She revealed a painting she had made at school. It was a beautiful underwater scene with glittering goldfish. Goldie was the star of the painting. Maya hung the picture beside Goldie's fish tank. Now Goldie could see herself swimming in the vast ocean every day. Goldie might have been a small fish in a tank, but in her heart and in Maya's stories and paintings, she was an adventurer, exploring the vast, wondrous ocean. Her life was full of colour, imagination, and the friendship she had always yearned for. From then on, Goldie and Maya continued their imaginary adventures together, sharing stories, laughter, and a bond that made their world special. They taught each other that no matter how small you might seem, you can always dream big and live a life full of adventure. And so, dear listener, it's time for you to embark on a journey to dreamland, where adventures and treasures await. Close your eyes, imagine a world full of colour and magic, just like Goldie's, and swim in those beautiful, adventurous seas. Once upon a time, high above the twinkling city lights and beyond the velvet blue of the night sky, there lived a kind-hearted man named Orian. He was not just an ordinary man. Orian was the man on the moon. His important job was to switch on the moon each night, casting a soft silver light over the sleeping world below. As twilight approached and the last rays of the setting sun started to fade, Orian would wake up. He'd stretch, yawn, and rub the sleep from his twinkling, starlit eyes. He'd put on his silver robe, dusted with cosmic sparkles, and step outside his small, charming lunar home. The earth, a mesmerizing palette of blue and green, would be visible from his doorstep. Orian carried a large, gleaming key made from a fallen shooting star. It was no ordinary key. It was the key that switched on the moon. He would gently insert the key into the heart of the moon and give it a delicate turn. Suddenly, the moon would glow with a beautiful, silvery light that gently touched everything on Earth below. But Orion's job didn't end there. After he switched on the moon, he'd take out his magical lyre, strung with the whispers of the cosmos, and began to sing sweet melodies. The stars would listen, enraptured, and start to dance and twinkle in harmony with his song. The music was so soothing that every child on Earth would drift into the sweetest of dreams, filled with joy, wonder, and boundless imagination. One night, as Orion was singing his melodious tunes, he noticed a lonely star, far away from her siblings. Her shine was a little less bright, and she seemed to wobble, uncertain. Orion, with a kind heart, decided to sing a special song just for her. A lullaby of light and warmth that reminded her she was never alone, even when the little star felt far from others. His voice, soft as the night's breeze, floated across the universe, reaching the lonely star. As the lullaby unfolded, the star began to shimmer with renewed energy. The little star danced, twirled, and most importantly, she shone. Brighter than she had ever shone before. Down on Earth, children would look out of their windows, pointing at the moon and the dancing stars with sleepy eyes, not knowing the man on the moon was the one who painted the night sky so beautifully each night. But Orion didn't mind. His reward was knowing that he'd brighten the world and the starry sky, guiding the stars and everyone into peaceful dreams. And so, dear listener, night after night, Orion continued his wonderful work, switching on the moon, singing the stars into their dance. His lovingly luminous legacy, reminding us all that even in darkness, there's always light, and even when we're apart, a song can connect our hearts. So next time you look up at the moon and see it glowing softly, remember Orion. And as you listen to the silent music of the night, know that it's him singing you and the stars into the sweetest dreams. Good night, little dreamer. Sleep tight under Orion's caring watch until the morning light. Once upon a time, beneath the endless blue of the ocean, lived a kind and gentle whale named Wilbur. Wilbur was not just any whale. He was the largest creature in the entire ocean, He had a heart as grand as his size, but he always felt a little sad. Wilbur believed he was too big to have any friends amongst the tiny fish that swam around him. Wilbur would watch from a distance as schools of colourful fish darted and swirled, playing hide and seek amongst the corals. He longed to join in their fun and laughter, but feared his enormous size would frighten them. So he kept to himself, swimming slowly through the vast ocean, his heart heavy with loneliness. One day, whilst Wilbur was cruising through a bright coral reef, he noticed a tiny seahorse trapped in a tangle of seaweeds. The little creature was struggling, its tiny eyes filled with fear. Wilbur hesitated for a moment, worried that his size might scare the seahorse even more. But seeing the tiny creature in distress, he knew he couldn't just swim away. With the gentlest touch, Wilbur carefully untangled the seaweed with his giant flippers, freeing the little seahorse. The seahorse, named Sammy, was surprised to see such a massive creature showing such kindness. "Thank you, big friend," Sammy said gleefully. "I was so scared, but you saved me." Wilbur smiled, his heart feeling lighter.
"You're welcome, little friend,"
he replied. News of Wilbur's kind deed spread throughout the ocean. The tiny fish that once fled at Wilbur's approach now came to realize that size was not a measure of someone's heart. They saw Wilbur's gentleness and kindness, and they wanted to be his friend. Soon, Wilbur was no longer swimming alone. Schools of tiny fish swirled around him, their bright colours a stark contrast to his dark, gentle, giant form. They told him stories of the little caves and crevices and reefs that he was too big to explore, while he shared tales of the vast ocean and distant seas he'd traverse. Wilbur learned that size didn't matter when it came to friendship. It was the size of one's heart, the kindness one showed, and the willingness to help others that truly mattered. From then on, Wilbur was never alone. The ocean was filled with his laughter and the happy chirps of his tiny friends. He realized he wasn't too big to have friends. In fact, he was just the right size to shelter and protect them. And so, dear listener, as you drift off to sleep, remember Wilbur's story. No matter how big or small, there's a place for everyone in this world. Good night, little dreamer. May your dreams be as vast and as deep as Wilbur's ocean. Once upon a time, in the heart of a bustling city, lived an adventurous tabby cat named Bella. Bella was a curious kitty, always exploring every nook and cranny of her home. One sunny afternoon, Bella noticed a large, mysterious box in the living room. The box was enormous and almost reached the ceiling. Well, to Bella it did anyway. It was plain, save for a few hastily scribbled words that Bella couldn't understand. However, what intrigued Bella the most was the enticing aroma of catnip wafting from the box. Unable to resist her curiosity, Bella jumped into the box, expecting to roll around in a pile of her favourite catnip toys. But to her surprise, she found herself in a maze of cushioning materials and smaller boxes. It was a labyrinth, and the smell of catnip grew stronger and stronger with each twist and turn. Bella spent hours exploring the maze, enjoying the fun of the hunt. However, as the sun began to set, Bella realized she was lost. The way back to the top seemed to have vanished in the jumble of the box maze. A sense of panic began to creep in. Bella missed her soft, cozy bed and the familiar sounds of her home. Just as Bella was about to give up hope, she heard a soft meow in the distance. She turned and saw a tiny, glowing kitten made entirely of starlight. "Are you lost?" the star kitten asked, its voice as soft as a moonbeam. "I am," Bella admitted. I don't know how to get out of this box." "Follow me," said the star kitten. "I know the way." Trusting the star kitten, Bella followed it through the maze. It seemed to know precisely where to go, taking turns and jumps that Bella had not noticed before. Soon, they saw a faint light up ahead, and with a leap, they landed on the top edge of the box. Bella was finally free, back in her living room under the soft, warm glow of her home lights. Before Bella could thank the star kitten, it faded away, leaving only a sprinkle of stardust and a small catnip toy in its place. From then on, Bella was more careful about jumping into unknown places, even if they promised catnip. She remembered the star kitten, and whenever she played with her catnip toy, she'd think of the small friend who had guided her home. And so, dear listener, as your eyes grow heavy and the stars twinkle outside your window, remember Bella's adventure. Curiosity is good, but always remember the way back home. Good night, little dreamer. May your dreams be filled with star kittens and catnip adventures. Once upon a time, in the heart of a beautiful, flower-filled meadow, there lived a tiny bumblebee named Buzzy. Buzzy was a cheerful bee, always buzzing from flower to flower, sipping nectar and spreading pollen. Her favourite part of the day, though, was watching the children play nearby. She loved their laughter, their games, and how they admired the flowers. More than anything, Buzzy wished she could play with them too. But each time she flew a little closer, the children would run away in fear, afraid of her sting. Buzzy felt heartbroken. She had no intention of stinging them. She merely wanted to be their friend. But how could she make them understand? One day an idea struck Buzzy as she watched the children play with their colourful kites. With the help of her bee friends, Buzzy started collecting petals from the brightest flowers. For days and nights, Buzzy and her friends worked tirelessly, shaping and sticking the petals together with sweet nectar. Finally, their hard work bore fruit. A beautiful petal-made kite, almost as big as the ones the children played with, but much lighter, so a bumblebee could fly it. The next day, when the children started playing with their kites, Buzzy took a deep breath and took flight, dragging the vibrant kite into the sky. The children looked up, amazed at the sight of the petal kite, even more so when they saw little Buzzy holding onto it. Seeing the awe in their eyes, Buzzy cautiously flew closer, gently landing the kite near them. She hovered nearby, watching as a little girl picked up the petal kite and admired it. Then, with a deep breath, Buzzy landed softly on the kite, ready to fly away if the children showed any signs of fear. But to her surprise, they didn't scream or run away. Instead, they gathered around, their eyes wide with wonder. They watched as Buzzy buzzed happily around the kite, showing them that she meant no harm. From that day forward, the children were no longer scared of Buzzy. They understood that she was friendly. They would play in the meadow, often leaving little gifts of sugar water for Buzzy and her friends. Buzzy was overjoyed. She had finally made friends with the children, and they were no longer scared of her. She buzzed happily in the meadow, reminding us all that friendship comes in all shapes and sizes. And sometimes all it takes is a small gesture to bridge the gap of misunderstanding. And so, dear listener, as you snuggle in your bed under the soft blanket of night, remember Buzzy's story. Don't judge a book by its cover, or in this case, a bee by its sting. Good night, little dreamer. May you have sweet dreams, filled with colourful petal kites and friendly bumblebees. Once upon a time, in a vibrant woodland, brimming with trees as tall as the clouds, lived a little squirrel named Squiggly. Squiggly had a shiny coat of chestnut brown, a bushy tail that flickered like a feather, and a habit of collecting nuts that was second to none. Each autumn, Squiggly would scamper around the forest, gathering nuts to store for the long, cold winter months. He'd pick the finest ones, tuck them in his cheeks, and store them in his cozy burrow beneath the old oak tree. One chilly morning, when the first frost was glittering on the leaves, Squiggly woke up to find that his nuts were gone. His burrow, which should have been brimming with acorns and hazelnuts, was completely empty. He couldn't believe his eyes. Where could his precious nuts be? Squiggly felt a flutter of worry in his tiny heart, but he was a brave squirrel. He decided to go on an adventure to find his lost nuts. With his tail held high, he embarked on his quest. Squiggly first visited Hoot, the wise old owl. Hoot hadn't seen Squiggly's nuts, but advised him to follow the rustling leaves, as they might lead him to clues. Squiggly thanked Hoot and scurried off, his ears pricked for the sound of rustling leaves. He followed the rustling to a clearing filled with scampering rabbits. The rabbits hadn't taken Squiggly's nuts, but they had noticed a trail of nutshells near the babbling brook. Squiggly thanked the rabbits and dashed off towards the brook. Near the brook, Squiggly found the trail of nutshells leading to a group of playful chipmunks. The chipmunks were using the empty shells as cups for a make-believe tea party. They were surprised to hear about Squiggly's missing nuts, but remembered seeing more shells near the thicket of brambles. Squiggly thanked the chipmunks for their help and hurried towards the thicket. As Squiggly approached the brambles, he heard a soft whimpering. It was a baby hedgehog, scared and alone. Next to the hedgehog, Squiggly found his pile of nuts. The hedgehog had accidentally rolled into Squiggly's burrow and rolled out with the nuts stuck to her spines. Squiggly wasn't angry. Instead, he gently helped remove the nuts from the hedgehog's spines. The hedgehog, grateful and relieved, promised to help Squiggly carry the nuts back to his burrow. And so, dear listener, Squiggly not only found his missing nuts, but he also made a new friend. He learned that sometimes adventures can lead to unexpected friendships, and accidents can happen. Good night, little dreamer. As the stars twinkle good night, remember Squiggly's story. Sometimes what seems like a problem can lead to wonderful surprises. May your dreams be as comforting as Squiggly's burrow, filled with warmth and delight. Once upon a time, there was a brave little boat named Bobby. Bobby was known far and wide for his adventurous spirit and the bright, sunny yellow paint that coated his hull. Bobby loved nothing more than to sail on the open sea, carrying his sailor friends and exploring new places. One sunny day, Bobby set sail with his friends for a journey across the ocean. But as they travelled further and further from shore, the sky turned grey and a fierce storm rolled in. The strong winds and swirling waters were too much for the little boat, and Bobby got separated from his friends. When the storm passed, Bobby found himself alone in the middle of the vast ocean. He was lost and didn't know which way to go. He floated aimlessly, hoping to spot a familiar landmark, but all he could see was the endless water around him. Just when Bobby was starting to feel really scared, he saw a tiny pinprick of light flickering in the distance. As he looked closer, he realized it was a lighthouse, standing tall on a distant island. Its light was strong and steady, cutting through the darkness like a beacon. With renewed hope, Bobby decided to follow the light. He navigated through the waves, keeping his focus on the guiding light of the lighthouse. The journey was tough and challenging, but Bobby was determined to find his way back home. After what felt like ages, Bobby finally reached the island with the lighthouse. The lighthouse keeper was surprised to see such a little boat all by itself. After hearing Bobby's story, he reassured him that this island wasn't far from Bobby's home harbour. With the lighthouse keeper's guidance and the lighthouse's constant light, Bobby sailed confidently towards home. As the first rays of dawn coloured the sky, he spotted the familiar shoreline and the faces of his sailor friends anxiously waiting for him. Bobby had finally made it home. His friends cheered, relieved and happy to see their brave boat back safe and sound. Bobby was glad to be home, but he also felt proud. He had faced his fears and found his way back all on his own. And so, dear listener, as the moonlight kisses you goodnight and the whispers of the night soothe you to sleep, remember Bobby's adventure. Even when things seem difficult, remember to keep going, guided by the light of hope and determination. Good night, little dreamer. May your dreams be as brave and exciting as Bobby's journey back home.